That's why they don't like him. So we got to understand all of these dynamics, all of the way that they're playing. And, Daryl, you had a point that you've been making to me about how the NABJ debacle actually twisted the entirety of the race, the election, that is.
No, absolutely, Barbara. One of the things that, and as everyone on this line is certainly politically active and does analysis, when going prior to NABJ, one of the things that was happening was that Vice President Harris was eating up all the oxygen in the room. There was no press for former President Donald Trump. All information, everything that was coming out was all about what's happening with Vice President Harris, who's going to be her running mate. All the oxygen in the room was being absorbed by her. When NABJ did this and gave Trump room to get in there and to exploit some of the media and to take some of that air back and put his name back out there and to lift him up and put him back on the stage, with all the other white racist things that he's done. That was one of the side parts of what happened as a result of his appearance at the NABJ. And then all of a sudden, we're seeing more that's now beginning to develop from there. So it wasn't really just the interview, but it was the opportunity that was provided to former President Trump to try to, get some new oxygen, because right now, at that point, he had no oxygen. It was all controlled by Vice President Harris. So, that was the analysis that was going on there, Barbara, with regards to, what the whole event actually had the practical impact of occurring. But, it's a great conversation to talk about the Black journalists and all the positive things, I think, that could come out of that, and the next steps that they should be taken, Barbara. I think that's precisely where we should be focused now, is being certain that NABJ is living up to that purpose.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to make sure we talk about, there's two things before, because our time has run so fast. I did want to talk about, from your vantage point, I guess you're still Wilmer at this point.
I'll always answer to that. And to Dr. Myers and Dr. Reynolds, what should we be doing? How should the media be treating this rascal when he gets out here and says that she's dumb? He's called her a bum. I heard him give a speech in which he called her a bum 3 times. He's on Truth Social. He has used the following language, that she's low IQ, dumb, doesn't have the mental capacity to do a real debate against me, that she isn't black. When all of this occurs, what appropriately should the media be doing? Now, I saw George Stephanopoulos try to handle Brian Donald the other day. But what should be happening? Because right now, as we're talking, they're putting all these black folks, they're paid minions, out in the media stream, out on stages, and they're just hammering away about how she's not, quote, black. And they're hammering away with all of these wicked and vicious racially stereotyped tropes about her. What should be happening?
The media should be exposing her background. This is a woman who serves as the state attorney general out in California, as a U.S. attorney. She has excellent reputation back in Oakland, where she works with families whose family members were in the prisons and helped them get back and be returning citizens. She has a great record, and the media needs to be exposing who she is, her policy initiatives, what her goals would be. And of course, Mr. Trump doesn't have that kind of experience. Yes, he was president for 4 years, but prior to that, he had no public experience. So the media is responsible for exploring and showing the public the details of what a person has accomplished.
But also, I hope they deal with scientific racism, which is something I've been looking at, because Maxine Waters was called someone of low IQ, and then they said Don Lemon had low IQ, and this is because we go back to what Hitler did. He made a certain group of people unnecessary, ignorant, blamed them for things, and I think, by putting her in this bag of being of low IQ, it's their way of reminding their group that they, no matter what they do, they're not qualified because they're too ignorant, and that's what bothers me. This eugenics kind of situation of labeling people less than. And when I heard Trump say she didn't know nothing, then another one of these Fox News and she can't speak. We have to either get a category for these lies and call them lies. Don't mess around. These are lies, and they're dangerous lies. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Well, the media. Go ahead. The media needs to identify this for what it is. I saw George's interview on Sunday, and it was very good. But we, again, this is a distraction. It is intentional. We need to understand the audience, the constituency that Donald Trump is speaking to, and that constituency is never going to be our constituency.
There you go.
Identify it for the racism and the xenophobia that it is. And again, I'm using Lindsey Graham's language, not mine. But now, when you start talking about Kamala's record in California, I'm from California, and I got a lot of family in Oakland, and her record is not nearly as stellar as many are trying to make it out to be. In fact, if you recall, 4 years ago, Tulsi Gabbard dismantled her in about a minute, literally 60 seconds, ran her out of the race on her record. So we have to deal in facts. We can't deal in talking points.
And when you talk about a record, because of course I'm also from California, and
I know you are.
And when you look at her record, there's a lot more to it than just what Tulsi had to say with her very traitorous self. But in any event, but it's true, for there's other truths that aren't being talked about that are very positive about her record as when she was AG, very positive. So we can have that debate later. But let me talk. Let us move on today, as before we close out this show. Quickly, from each of you, today is the 59th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We know the blood that was spilled on the Pettus Bridge. We know all the sacrifices that were taken, all the martyrs and everyone in order to secure that act. And we know that this is an election year. What is the one thing, quickly, from each of you, your 1 minute, that you have to say to the public on this particular anniversary that you would like to say to all of our listeners throughout the country and the world?
What this anniversary demonstrates very clearly is that, as Dr. King told us, freedom is never given voluntarily by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. And if we take that reality and apply it to 2024, we have to ask ourselves as a community, it's great to have a Vice President Harris running for president, but what are we demanding that she deliver?
Well, I think it's a blood covenant. I think when you look at the people who died to set us free, that it's a matter that is the power of the blood that was shed, and not just to vote for the top of the ticket, but the bottom in the state houses and in the county houses where they're changing the law. So it has to be up and down, not just one. It's not really personality. It's purpose. And we have to never forget what the purpose is.
Amen.
So,
I I would like to say that every adult listening to this show should sit down with their young children, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, and tell them that people died for their right to register to vote when they become 18 years old. There are 40 million Gen Zs who are in this election, and they're confused and they're not sure what they want to do. So we as the adults must teach them, and I want to give credit to the Transformative Justice Coalition. You're going to be honoring Betty Boynton tonight. She's the daughter-in-law of a woman who marched for Amelia Boynton, a great heroine that many people don't know about. So thank you very much for honoring her.
Thank you, Daryl.
You had that bus going around.
Yes, John Lewis.
I'm going to be on that
bus is coming out. And I do want to quickly, before I turn it over to Daryl, quickly, everybody, young folks are doing it. They are registering in greater numbers than any other cohort out there. Young people are fighting. Let's be very clear. The majority of the voter registrations that have been entered this week have been from people 18 years old. 18 years old. Dominant voter registration group for the last 2 weeks.
Last night, the black pastors raised $500,000.
Yes, I was
on the line with them. Okay. The church is heavily engaged.
Okay, so Daryl, take us home.
Thank you, Barbara. And, definitely want to thank Dr. Stephanie Myers for Black Women Positive Change. For her appearance today, just outstanding work. Thank you for being here. Dr. Barbara Reynolds, thank you so much for being one of the founding members of the National Association of Black Journalists. Dr. Wilmer Leon, my frat brother, thank you so much for all you do in your show. Thank you for being here today and for all that you all have brought forward. Folks, if you are in the D.C. area, come join us this evening at 7 p.m. at the Madison Hotel, 1177 15th Street Northwest, where we'll be doing our Voting Rights Champion celebration, celebrating the 59th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We'll have one of those people that marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with Congressman John Lewis, one of our honorees, Betty Boynton, who was only 16, 17 years old at the time that she did it. We'll have with us Philip Hunter, now an attorney, who was also 17 years old, wasn't old enough to vote at the time that he marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but he could see the future and knew what was needed. Come hear their stories, folks. We also will have words from our other honoree, Senator Vincent Hughes, 7th Senatorial District out of Pennsylvania. Folks, it's time to get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, be the change that we need in this country, be the power that you need to be. Let's move this community forward together. Let's get our vote on. It's time. It's time. It's time. Until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Standard Time on WOL. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
The preceding program was paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
What if your business could talk to thousands of new customers every week? With Urban One on Tap, you can. Urban One on Tap is a new, affordable, do-it-yourself way to easily get your message on radio, streaming, and online to reach the customers you want to reach. Best of all, you set the budget. Urban One on Tap shows you how many customers you can reach and how many of them match your ideal customer. Create your own ad or get high-quality audio and images made for you at no extra charge. Take your business to the next level with Urban One on Tap do-it-yourself advertising. UrbanOneOnTap.com.
A stroke can be easy to detect. A loved one can't speak. Perhaps they can't move. But there's another sign of a stroke that many of us can't see. It's called spatial neglect, and it can occur during or after a stroke, causing distorted visual movements. Fortunately, there's a solution by using optical prism technology during rehabilitation. If you or a loved one have experienced a stroke, ask your doctor about spatial neglect. Spatial neglect. See the whole picture at KesslerFoundation.org.
1450 and 95.9 WOL. Download our free mobile app for your smartphone or tablet and take us with you. 1450 and 95.9 WOL, where information is power.
I'm Ellie the Mammoth, and my friend Sid the Sloth knows what being a great parent is all about.
WOL, Washington, D.C. W240DJ, Washington. 95.9 WMMJ HD3, Bethesda. WKYS HD3, Washington. WPRS HD3, Waldorf, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.